Zolder! The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everyone and welcome to the VRRC League of Champions with the DTM Cup. We are here at the incredible Zolder circuit for round one. My name is Daniel Handover. Joining me in the commentary box this evening is Mr. Dave Marshall. Dave, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing fair well. I've got my cup of coffee and ready for one hell of a fight tonight.
A cup of coffee. What more could you need than a cup of coffee to see you through what is going to be some incredible racing? I mean, to be fair, Dave, actually thinking about it, you're probably not going to need that much coffee, are you? Let's be honest.
No, I mean, I don't like to be favouriteist here, but DTM is one I've been looking forward to since the start of League of Champions, you know. 3 different classes of car, all different weights, different powertrains. You know, it's proven a real challenge for the drivers, especially on this particularly bumpy start of the track. So yeah, really look forward to seeing how the drivers deal with this. And, you know, watching the start of this race is going to be one to remember.
It is absolutely indeed. I mean, to be fair, as you were saying, Dave, you just touched on it briefly. This is part of a 4-round championship, isn't it? This is part of a 4 months worth of championships, 4 different disciplines. So if you want to just go a little bit more in detail into the League of Champions for us.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the 3rd championship as part of the League of Champions. So as you said before, League of Champions has consisted of 4 championships. All go towards a big league table. So this is the 3rd round, which is classic DTM. Our 4th round still remains, which starts 4 weeks from now, and that is Audi TT Cup. So it's very similar to a touring car, spec car, but has the things like push to pass and certain assists that you wouldn't necessarily see on a British touring car. So that's obviously a real favourite for the people that's training ready for the touring car league that was starting. You know, or any of the other drivers that prefer that front-wheel drive discipline. But really, it's, you know, it just enables people to sort of enter a league that is made up of different disciplines, you know, and really a top driver that's good all-round it will come out on top.
Indeed, it will. Yes, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the DTMs, like I said, for myself as well, a different, you know, a definite personal favourite for me as well. They're always good fun. They always provide some good racing, and I feel that this is going to be no different. As you can see there, we've got on your screen the incredible Alfa, Mercedes, and BMW. I mean, to be fair, Dave, that Alfa just looks absolutely insane, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it looks insane from the front, and it looks even more, let's say, outrageous from the back with its 4 exhaust pipes that go halfway up the boot. So, yeah, be sure to watch out for that going into turn 1 with flames like nearly hitting the spoiler. So, you'll see what I mean.
Exactly. It's going to be good fun. As you can see, you've got the track map here, Zolder. A very tricky circuit. I always thought it was a bit of, you know, I've driven around it a fair bit. Haven't actually driven it in AC. And also haven't driven these cars today. We're going to have to be going to you for some technical knowledge on how these cars drive. But I always found Zolder as a bit of a stop-start circuit. You can probably see there, you've got like, you know, three big chicanes that you're going to have to go through and negotiate. Obviously, big braking zones. These cars, they are quite old. So the braking zones themselves, you know, the brakes that these cars have, they're okay, but by no means that of a modern touring car. So, you know, braking zones are going to be quite big, although that does potentially mean, though, we're going to see some very, very good braking move. You know, it's going to be sort of last of the late breakers, but I think the window is a little bit bigger in these sort of cars here, though.
Yeah, it's these cars are really very, very difficult. You know, unlike the Porsches, which was round 1 of the championship, you know, the Porsches were really good on the brakes, but it's sort of, you know, you knew it was going to be reliable. It wasn't going to just lock up and go straight on. You know, these cars here, as soon as they hit sort of them bumps in the floor, you know, the diffs just seem to struggle. The car pushes on a lot. They're really not an easy car to get stopped and turned at the same time at all. So definitely going into turn one, might see a few brave people trying to go for an inside line there, but it is very risky because these cars, as I say, do like to have a good bounce, as we can see there. Jordan Brennan, you can see the cars really bouncing up and down on them bumps there. You know, the cars like to press on and, you know, can lead to, unfortunately, a bit of side-to-side wheel action.
Well, I mean, to be fair, side-to-side wheel action is probably, I can imagine, for the drivers, a little bit sketchy. But obviously for us, that does provide some very, very good and very fun racing. You can just see the exhaust of the Alpha there. I know what you're saying, Dave. They just go halfway up the back of the car. That's interesting to see. It's weird. These cars look... I think they're looking dated, but in a good way. You know what I mean? They just sort of... They look... They were in the place of the 80s, and they just sort of suit it, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing where if I went to a track day or, you know, a race track, and, you know, you've got the modern BTCC and the, you know, the touring cars and things like that, and then one of these was in the garage next door, I can almost guarantee this would have the biggest group of people around. You know, it's classic, it's nostalgic, you know, it's just raw driving. And, you know, it really hits home for all the drivers there.
It does indeed. A cracking shot there of currently on board with Michael Epps. So we've got a few, obviously a few touring car drivers in this series that now have. Mike Epps participated in the Abarth Fabarth Cup last season. And obviously he has continued that run in doing the DTM Championship as well. Obviously Jack McIntyre's in a favourite of this championship. We have seen him perform incredibly well over the last few seasons. But what a great onboard shot. Hopefully we're going to see more of these onboard shots as we go through. And as we go through into the race and qualifying. But yes, qualifying is underway. It's a 15-minute qualifying. Okay, 12 and a half minutes left to go. No one's actually put a time on the board yet. One thing I was noticing, though, Dave, which I don't think we've seen that much of beforehand, is everyone was warming their tyres up before the start of the race, before the start of their lap. So I don't know. Is that something that I don't remember seeing that happen much in the Porsche? Is that something that affects these cars quite considerably this time out?
I don't know whether it's really a tyre thing or whether it's just people trying to, you know, calm the nerves because... You know, I talked to the drivers before and all of them are really struggling with how bumpy this track is, and it's proved to be really quite inconsistent with a car that's so old. You know, one lap you can be a tenth up, the next lap you come around the corner, hit a bump that you haven't quite hit the same way, get the car sideways and you've lost 0.3 of a second. So I think it's drivers just trying to get a bit of composure there. But yeah, getting a bit of front tyre temp's always going to be useful coming out the pits, but they've got the tyre blankets on the tyres, so realistically, they shouldn't find it too hard to keep temp into them tyres.
No, very, very true. It's interesting to see. I mean, you know, we may see that going through a little bit more, but yeah, it'd be interesting to just see how we get on. But Jack McIntyre currently just about to cross the line and put in his first proper lap, a 140.748. And we just had, actually Mike Epps, I say that, Mike Epps has just bested that with a 140.400. Andy Mellor's just coming across the line now with a 142.605. So it's all, I mean, at the moment, it's already quite close to the top. You know, the top two, Epps and McIntyre, separated by 3.5 tenths. So not that much in it. Not the closest we've seen, but we have only just got through into the start of quali. So I'm sure those times will start coming down for everyone. We've got Andy Dorman just coming across the line that is in P6 with 144.5. Rob Butler, 142 dead. And Robbie Stapleford puts in 0.04 of a second quicker than Mike Epps. I have a feeling, Dave, these times are going to be very, very close. We just see someone goes for a very... Is he going to save that? What a save that was. I don't know who that was just back there, but that's definitely the save of this evening already. We haven't even got to the race yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When Robbie put that on pole, I did get a bit of a smile. You know, he went, Dave, I'm really struggling with the car. I haven't had much time to practice. Can we book in a coaching session with 10 tenths before the race? Sure enough, we dial the setup in an hour before the race, and he's gone and put it on pole. So there's nothing like last minute, but it's worked for him, so there you have it. But yeah, Mike Epps in there, very close. Qualifying is important in this class of car, but it isn't probably what you'd think, and the separation in times isn't as important as you think either, because this is the first championship we've had where, you know, it's three different cars. They're not all the same class of car, not all the same car category, if you like. So we've got the Mercedes here on screen, driven by Max. You know, it's probably the mid-powered car out of the three, rear-wheel drive. You've got the E30, which is slightly lighter, slightly less power, and then you've got the big hulk of a thing, which is the Alpha, which is four-wheel drive, but the most power out of all of them. You know, what we've tended to say to drivers, if you prefer a smoother driving style, something that's more forgiving and quicker to get used to, choose the Alpha, because the Beamer is one leery car. So fair play to Robbie and Jack for both getting that Beamer right up on the top of the grid there. But yeah, when we go into the race, just because a driver's down the pack a bit, we might see that the power of the Merc and the power of the Beamer just managed to creep alongside the Alpha towards the end of the straight. Just the Alpha lacks a bit of top end with it being a bit heavy and a bit more mechanical drag with it being four-wheel drive.
It's interesting. Like you said, it's the first time we've had one of these, this series in the League of Champions, as you say, where there's, different types of cars. So I suppose as well, it suits different driving styles as we go through. Before we actually do get ahead, though, Dave, I'd like to, obviously with this, with the League of Champions, obviously there's prizes on offer that we do have available for this championship. So, if you just want to talk to us a little bit about that, because we'd really, like to get some insights, into sort of some of the prizes, and for everyone at home as well, to some of the prizes that are up for grabs for the guys currently taking part.
Yeah, for sure. So for every championship within League of Champions, so that's the 4 championships, there's first, second and third place prizes, which is hats and trophies, because everyone loves a nice trophy on the mantelpiece. But yeah, the main prizes are for the league itself. So you accumulate points based on where you finish in each championship. That goes into an overall league table. And then there's prizes for that final league table. So things like, I think top place is a wheel, second place is a rig, some really good quality prizes. But, it's sort of, you've got to be there in each championship, getting the results to keep your foot in the door. So at the moment, Jack is winning the overall league, but only by a point to Jordan Brennan. Robbie Stapleford 6 points behind that, and Charlie Oliver, who actually isn't present at the DTM, so he's 9 points back, but that's really going to bring Max Edmondson and Rob Butler right up into them top positions because Charlie Oliver isn't here.
Very, very true. So what we're saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's one of those things that you've got to make sure that you're consistent in whatever you drive. You just got Paul Laramie currently just diving into the pits. A bit of a rundown. Robbie Stapleford still on pole position. So I know you're talking about Dave at the moment. He is the man to beat, although Epps is still only 400 behind. Neither of them two have bested their lap time, I don't believe, with Jack McIntyre still in P3. And then actually looking at that gap, though, to Jordan Brennan, Dave, the gap is the gap is 7/10 of a second from P3 to P4. And then, again, P4 to P5, the gap is only 300. It's less than 300, actually. So it's very, very close. But that jump from P3 to P4 is quite surprising.
Yeah, I mean, we're just watching here Robin Walters on screen. I did actually look at the practice times, and Robin Walters, we expect to see him up in that top 5 position. His lap time was very competitive that he did. Yet another driver who didn't have the practice time, but set up off 10/10ths and, was competitive straight away. So that's really nice to see. And it's nice to see him back on the grid in the DTM. So hopefully he'll have a good session out there. But yeah, Mike Epps is sitting in the second position at the moment, but we've got to remember, that Alpha, it's 4-wheel drive, the Beamer's rear-wheel drive, sorry. I can't see Robbie is going to manage to defend turn 1 to a 4-wheel drive car off the line. So it's going to be damage limitation and making sure McIntyre doesn't follow Mike through at that start. Yeah,
it's very, very true. It's going to be interesting to watch out, definitely. But like I said, I think at the moment, we can both agree that Epps is going to have the advantage off of the starting blocks. But then again, we'll see. As we have seen before, the standing start, they can throw up some very, very interesting starts, to say the least. And, if you don't get it right, then you are going to lose out. Jordan Brennan goes still P4, get a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 by the looks, but still can't quite best his current time. So he's still currently in P4. He is currently 3rd in terms of the BMWs. I'm just looking down the order. So Mr. Smith, car number 14, is currently the highest placed. As I say that, actually, no, tell a lie. Robin Walters, you were talking about him just then, David. He is now the highest placed Mercedes. So
yeah, if by magic, eh?
It is if by magic, exactly. What timing that was, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite relieved, I'm not going to lie. I did the bops on this car, so there's a bit of pressure on me making sure, that the Alpha, the Beamer and the Merc are all reasonably level. But what we will see is just because one car is faster at this track doesn't mean that going to somewhere like Spa, another car won't struggle. So yes, there might be a car that's slightly advantageous on this track, But you know, wait until the championship unfolds, and you'll see how it'll balance itself out depending on which track we go to.
Exactly. That's another thing to to work out is again, you've almost got to treat this championship like its own little marathon. Like, if you've done the testing, you know the tracks, obviously they know the calendar. Again, is what feels most comfortable for you over the course of the 4 rounds. It doesn't just work out, for that first round that sort of works, and if it works, happy days, or if, so it's always something that just needs to be, like I said, very much a marathon, not a sprint, as we said before. But one thing I'd like to say though as well, let's everyone that is watching, obviously, thank you very much for tuning in. Please do get involved in the chat here. We've just got Dave Jones. So very good evening to Dave. We've also got Bod Cole says Alpha for the win. Epson the Alpha is going to be hard to beat. I mean, at the moment, well, to be fair, it's very, very close, but that could very well be something that we need to actually look out for. But yeah, do get involved on the chat. We'd love to be able to hear your guys' thoughts on the races, and it also gives us some talking points as well. If you've got any questions for us, please do let us know. Current on the screen still Isaac Smith, who is now a second behind Robbie Stapleford in P1. So the times are starting to come down, although the gap from P3 to P4 is still quite higher than we have seen previously. Just going back, there's a little bit wide for Max Edmondson there, going through into turn 1, currently 1.2 seconds off. So to be fair, looking at the timings, Dave, you've got about 8/10 separating. Actually, I say that. Just over a second separating 4th to 10th. So that's going to be a pretty close battle in itself. If you don't necessarily see, we may see the top 3, Stapleford, Epps and McIntyre. You may see them sort of disappear a little bit into the distance. But by the looks of it, battle from, the P4 to P10 could be pretty clse.
Yeah, I mean, what we've found is the Alpha is definitely the most consistent car lap on lap to lap. If 3 of them weren't quite there, I don't know whether it did, but you know what I'm saying. The Alpha is the most consistent car to lap every lap. That sounded a bit better. Whereas maybe the Mercedes or the Beamer has a little bit more of that outright pace, as we've seen Mike Epps there actually prove me wrong and go absolute pole with a 40.0.
Wow.
Yeah. Your Bod Call might be right here. The Alpha might be a hard car to beat here with Mike. So through testing for me, I did find the Alpha was the quickest at Zolder. It's a very bumpy track, and that 4-wheel drive just allows you to get on the power really hard through them chicanes, and it just gets you that them little few tenths there that just make that gap over the rear-wheel drives that struggle a little bit for traction.
Yeah, it's true. Like, they've got to try and make sure, it's very difficult. I mean, to be fair, if I was driving any of the cars, I mean, personally, I think I'd go with the BM. Again, I think just how the way that the cars look seem to be behaving, I think the BM would certainly suit my driving style. But I mean, yeah, if you can get the Alpha tamed and actually working, I mean, by the looks of it, it does work for you, as it is working for Mike Epps. So he's managed to get that car really switched on, and it does seem to be working very, very well. Again, another amazing onboard shot with Robbie Stapleford currently. I'm really liking these onboard cameras. These are really, really good. I'm hoping we do see a lot of these during the race, because this is mega to watch.
The cars look great on board, don't they? It's the classic sort of like 80s onboard footage, raw footage of the driver just wrestling the car through every corner, isn't it? Just a little bit of understeer, then he'll give it a bit of right foot, a little bit of oversteer over the curb. It's class to watch.
It is indeed. I think this is one of the things, and this is the age-old question, isn't it? Like, is this something that's sort of like some modern driving, like modern F1? It loses because you don't get that sort of, you don't see the driver wrestling with the car a lot. And I think, yeah, something like this where you got the car, you're almost, I suppose, as well, though, so you're almost driving these to an extent with your right foot, aren't you? You're inducing understeer, inducing oversteer. Obviously, Robbie Stapleford absolutely smashing over those curves. Very, very brave indeed. Yeah, you're driving it with the throttle. The car is sort of, if you want it to rotate more, a bit more throttle. Yeah, if you want it to push understeer more, a bit less. And it's just an element in itself of a driving style, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a thing about British touring cars not that long back with the interviews. And, the drivers all got questioned, what era was the favourite car you drove, or what car would you like to drive? And they all pointed towards the late 90s, sort of the super touring era. And it wasn't just the fact that that's when, drivers were paid to be in motorsport, but it was a case of the cars were pure brutes, really heavy steering, big sequential stick, a lot of power in a diff that probably couldn't cope with it. So, that's what we're seeing on screen here. For all the rear-wheel drive, it's raw, it's a handful. So, yeah, just because a driver pulls a gap at the start, it's not done and dusted then.
No, very, very true indeed. But that is the end of qualifying. We've got a few more people that need to finish up their laps. We see Isaac Smith, he's just gone red, so I believe he's had an off. But at the moment, we did see Michael Epps put in another personal best of 140.093. So he was so very close into the 139s. Couldn't quite manage it, though. As we see Isaac Smith there, yeah, pulling off. So he obviously had an off going through at the start of the lap. A few more people to finish their times. Jordan Brennan currently in P6, 1.3 seconds behind the pole man. Andy Carroll just going across the line to finish his lap, 142.793, so he doesn't improve on his personal best there. Yeah, at the moment, Michael Epps is taking pole position. You can see the qualifying results on here. So we've got Michael Epps, Robbie Stapleford, and Jack McIntyre rounding out the top three. Isaac Smith in fourth, Robin Walters P5, Jordan Brennan P6, Max Edmondson P7, Rob Butler P8, Andy Mellors P9, and Will Fairclough rounding out the top 10. And then Andy Carroll P11, Mick Sutton at P12, Andy Dorman P13, Paul Laramie in P14 as well, rounding up with a grid of what I'm sure is going to be some incredible racing. We're hopefully going to have a chance to chat with the pole man, Mike Epps, in just a second while we wait to get ahead for these. I mean, Dave, like I said, I know it's too close to call, but if Mike Epps can get a good start, which hopefully he will do, like I said, he can use the four-wheel drive to his advantage, I think this could very well be, if he does manage to keep out of trouble, then this could be a win for him.
Yeah, I don't want to curse it. As long as he picks the right tyres, the right tyre management, I reckon basically everyone should be on mediums, I would have thought. As long as he doesn't get too much temp in them tyres over the laps with the weight, yeah, I reckon he'll be absolutely spot on. Four-wheel drive off the line, it's going to be really hard for Robbie to really close anything down on the early part of this lap. The key for Robbie here is going to be, watching Jack, making sure he's managing that gap. But yeah, I think the ones definitely to watch is, Rob Butler's down there in 8th place. Four-wheel drive gaining on maybe the front two, maybe three rear-wheel drives. He's definitely going to be a one to watch going into first corner.
It is indeed, absolutely. Well, we do have Mike Epps in the interview in the commentary box. So, Dave, do you want to go and chat with Mike now?
Yeah, I'll go and see how we did that lap. Right then, Mike, how we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, a bit shocked with the lap time. I didn't think anyone was going to get under that 0.5, and then Robbie went and posted a 0.3, and then you managed to go another nearly 0.3 of a second faster than him. I take that was a rather hooked up lap, I take it.
Yeah, it is. It's about getting it hooked up and not getting track limits around all the areas where you can use curb. To be honest, I probably had half a tenth or a tenth at the first sector, so I had a 39.9 on the Delta the lap after, and then I ruined the chicane. So it is very much, Zolder's always been one of those circuits where if you can hook the curbs up right and get the lines just right,
yeah,
well. And in these cars, it's particularly difficult because they feel quite heavy, although they're not. They feel quite heavy and sort of slow response from what I'm feeling on the sim. So you have to really predict things nice and early. But no.
Yeah, we're just saying it's a proper old school car. It's almost a bit of a driver's car, really. It's a bit sideways, a bit leery, and it's not very forgiving. So you've really got to grab the car and put it where you want to put it. I mean, you must be feeling relatively confident here. You're in a four-wheel drive car in front of the two rear-wheel drive cars behind that have shown real pace. I take it, you're sitting in a fairly comfortable position here. I just wonder, are you going to go into the race and focus on getting that nice early gap and then maintain it, or are you worried a bit about, track limits and focusing on, not running that too risky?
To be honest, I did a race run earlier and it feels pretty good. Like you say, the four-wheel drive thing is useful. Obviously, it's noticeably bopped in terms of sort of, it feels like power to kind of make up for the differences in the cars. So I think it's going to really show in the race. I'll finally get to find out what the others are like in theirs. But yeah, as long as I get a nice clear getaway, that's really going to be the key. And the feel of this car, although it's a tiny bit lazy, I think it's going to be really quite strong for coming through the pack in the second race. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a solid plan there, Mike, and good luck going into race one. I'll let you get your thoughts and get ready for the race because I can't see your timer. So I'll bear that in mind and let you concentrate.
Yes, mate. It's about 2 minutes, so
Oh, we have plenty of time, but no worries, mate. I'll speak to you shortly.
yeah.
Well, there we go, Dan.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, to be fair, he said he had a 10th in the first sector. I mean, fair play.
Yeah, that's a guy who's quietly confident, isn't it?
You could tell the things. You could tell it, couldn't you? You could tell you sitting there, yeah, it's fine, trying to play it all cool. But I mean, to be fair, yeah, what a lap. And if he had more time in that, I mean, I don't think there is ever such thing as a perfect lap. Like you said, Mike had a 10th in it. But even so, that was probably getting on to not very far off being that perfect lap. We just had actually someone, apologies for not mentioning this, so Maximilian Bird. So, Max Bird, good evening, I should say. Good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're doing okay. Thank you very much for tuning in. But yes, looking forward to getting race 1 underway. 20-minute race, so time management definitely playing a factor into this. So we could very well see some people that have got some additional pace at the end of or nearing the final stage of the race. Again, it's really hard to call. We've not actually had this before. So, this is the first race. We have no real idea how it's going to go forward, do we, Dave?
No, not really. I mean, listen to Mike's interview there. He was almost saying, get race 1 out the way, and I'm thinking about race 2 already. So that definitely says a bit of confidence there. But yeah, I mean, Max Bird's watching, he's done the first 2 rounds of the League of Champions so far, but I believe he's just sitting out Classic DTM just so he can really focus on the up-and-coming mini challenge E-Series as well as the touring cars. So fair play to him for doing that, and hopefully we'll see him on the grid soon.
Yes, indeed. I'm really hoping we do see Max back. So, yeah, it was some really, really good racing indeed. But we've got... Can't wait to watch. Kind of annoyed I didn't enter. Well, Max, to be fair, if you've got some good racing to watch, there is going to be some really good racing to watch. Do not worry about that. Also got Ben as well on the stream. So very good evening to you, Ben. Hope you are all okay. But we have the timing lights. As you can see, the lights are just about to come on, and we are going to be underway. We have 6 lights on, and we are away now. It's a blistering start. A little bit late, actually, from Mike Hetz, but that four-wheel drive system just dug into the ground, and he is already gone. It's looking very, very close, actually, at the back of the field. Almost going to go 4 wide. That's a big crash already. Wow, that was a big, big crash. It's still happening, but I think everyone is now... Finally, there was another couple of spins here. I'm sure, Dave, that's going to bring out the safety car because...
That's 100% safety car. That was a case of an Alpha, I don't know who it was, determined to get through the pack and just didn't have any clear room in front of him. So there's definitely drivers there that's made good progress. Andy Mellors is up into 6th place. Robin Walters down, I believe, into 7th place. But I believe it was probably Butler there who had the great start and then ran out of road, didn't have anywhere to go.
He did, unfortunately for him. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, Mike Epps, you saw actually, didn't you? The lights went out and there was just a little bit of a delay from Mike Epps actually making that jump. But yeah, that four-wheel drive system just dug in and off we went. So even at the reverse grid, you can definitely see, as you can see there, we have had confirmation that the safety car has indeed been deployed. So you can see everyone frantically trying to keep some heat into those tyres. I can imagine it's probably going to be a little bit more crucial for the Mercedes and the BMW drivers to keep heat in their tyres. Again, that four-wheel drive system, given that traction on the exit of corners, it doesn't matter as much when the tyres are cold. But yeah, Mike Epps, he had a little bit of a delay, but still a great start. This Alpha is going to be an absolute machine off of the line. And yeah, that reverse grid for race 2, that's also going to throw a bit of a spanner into the works. But we're going to see. Hopefully we don't have a repeat of what happened there, because it seemed the crash went on for the entire corner, didn't it, Dave? I think, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, we had quite a few cars go sideways, but actually when I look at the grid, I think everyone went sideways, but roughly managed to hold it. It was like a half spin and then they kept going. So I don't know whether the safety car isn't actually going to come out here and they're just going to call it off here, because as far as I can see, the rest of the cars are actually on the back of the grid. So we'll wait and see. But I believe that look like Mike Epps has gone there. I believe he has. So if Mike Epps has gone here, that's worked in his favour, because he's already managed to drop a gap there to Robbie Stiltford behind.
He has indeed, very, very true. So to be fair, the restarts, as we are getting back underway, yeah, the restart for Mike Epps worked very, very well. As you said, you've already pulled out 0.7 of a second, but Jack McIntyre is on the back of Robbie Stapleford. You got actually I say that, the gap is still about 0.4, or near enough half a second now. So a little bit even from the top 3 at the moment. We've just had, I believe that is Sutton that's had a bit of a, I see we've had a couple of people off. So we've got Sutton, Fairclough that have both gone off. So Dorman, Butler and Walters inherit their positions. And we're now currently on your main screen. You do have Andy Dorman here going through into turn P3 now. I have to admit, the more and more I look at Zolder, that was a very, very, looked to be on the inside. I believe that was Sutton that was going to have a bit of a move, but didn't quite make it. I think Andy Dorman just managed to get that grip and find the grip around the outside. So fair play to him for keeping it there. Although, as I say that, it's going to be another potential move going through for Sutton. And he does indeed go through a little bit slower on the exit, but he manages to keep the position. So Sutton moves up from Dorman. Very, very good move. And this is what we're saying now. I think the braking zone is where we're going to see a lot of overtaking. We're going to be another overtaking position here where Andy Carroll's going to try and get past Dorman. And I think a little bit of doors to the rubbing action, but Dorman hasn't let the position go. They're still side by side, but he does have to concede the position eventually. And unfortunately, gets another bit of a knock from Will Fairclough by the look. So he's now dropped 2 or even 3 positions. And we've got a spin as well, Dave.
Yeah, it's a real shame, but what we are seeing here is, these Alphas, they're a bit heavier, the 4-wheel drive. They really can take a good barge and not a lot happens. So you can see drivers here really being quite forceful with some of the overtakes, but it's all part of racing. I'm sure they're enjoying it. Exactly,
yeah, like I said, as we know, this is part with DTM and the touring car in general, but this is, that was Michael Epps there, I think.
No, Will Fairclough went straight on there on the brakes, I believe. Mike Epps just put fastest lap in, so Mike Epps is definitely still pulling the gap on Robbie Stapleford here. But the one to watch is definitely going to be to see whether Jack Mack can try and close that gap, because at the moment, Robbie's doing a very, very good job.
He is indeed, yeah, like you said. Again, Jack could be very well managing his tyres a little bit better. He's trying to conserve those potentially for the end of the race. Obviously, Stapleford and McIntyre both in the BMWs respectively. But this is still the battle. Well, that was a battle for P13. So Andy Dorman and Will Fairclough still. So I'm just intrigued to see, actually, again, with this great onboard shot, I am absolutely loving this. I just want to see, you can actually see a little bit that, I say that, a little bit of oversteer moment there, but it looked to be that Jack was a bit tentative on the way in, so it could very well be that conservation of tyres is a thing. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes through. And that was Will Fairclough, again, trying to make the move on Andy Dorman. Just having a look. Couldn't quite make it stick, though. But I'm sure that he is gunning for P12. Has dropped back a little bit, though. So all in all, I think drivers seem to have settled down. There's a couple of positions that I'm sure will be had in the next few laps or so. But everyone's, I think, finding their feet now. They're getting a bit more confidence in the car, because that's one thing as well, Dave, isn't it? You've always got to, especially with cars like this, like I said, as we were talking about earlier, because you're driving it with a throttle, you've got to be just a little bit cautious as well, at least for the first couple laps. Get the tyres to warm up, the brakes to warm up before you can really start pushing. Even though we have seen some very, some pretty clean overtaking and some pretty aggressive overtaking, I think there's still a little, element of caution there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would definitely think that's more the case with the BMW. It's managing them front tyres, keeping temps in them while not overworking the rears. As soon as you get a little bit too much temp in these rear tyres, the car will really bite at you. But regarding the 4-wheel drive in the Alpha, this is why, it was quite an easy choice for some of the drivers who went, I want to focus more on the racecraft side. I want to be able to race better wheel to wheel without worrying that the car's going to spit us off at the next corner. So that's why we see a lot of drivers choosing the Alpha, but I bet they're having a whale of a time, because, they can probably feel it and really battle it, fight for positions, unlike they could maybe necessarily in the Porsche, that, any sort of sideways movement, it was spitting them straight off at the barrier.
Very, very true indeed. As we see, we just had Robbie Stapleford there get on 2 wheels, go through the first chicane. Although we have seen, I was just looking at both Michael Epps's and Robbie Stapleford's last lap. So just as a comparison, the last lap for Epps was a 141.339. Robbie Stapleford's last lap was a 141.368. So these guys are just so close in terms of lap times. They were for the last lap at least. And to be fair, Stapleford has actually pulled out. And he pulled a couple of, or 2 or 3 tenths on Epps. So I'm pretty sure, because Jack McIntyre's dropping back a little bit, I'm pretty sure he's sitting there going, you guys crack on. I'm going to let Robbie try and, gain as much as he can and use as much of his tyres. And then he might try and get into the end of the race, because Jack, as we have seen, we saw it in the Porsche Cup, he's very, very good at managing his tyres. We see someone else just go off in the background there. Get another great shot on this track pan view. It's really, I do have to admit, I do like fixed cameras as well. It just, again, works. It grounds you a bit more to the circuit. And it's very, very cool indeed when you get those. But at the moment, a bit of a battle here going through. That is Edmondson and Sutton, I believe, that are having a bit of a battle there just in front of us. But the battle here with Will Fairclough on the back bumper. Very carefully, he doesn't melt the front bumper with the exhaust on the rear of Dorman's car there. Because if he gets any closer, I think he will be.
Yeah, this is great to see, isn't it? Will's been, wanting a battle like this, I don't know for how long. So for him to be in this chance here, racing, Dorman as hard as he possibly can, literally pushing him through the corners. I bet he's doing this with a grin on his face. It's great. I'm getting a bit goosebumps, if I'm honest, about these cars. They just look great on the track, classic 80s cars. It's a bit of me, this is.
I tell you what, I do agree, although it wasn't actually if you said that, I was just about to say it, but Will Fairclough, again, having a bit of a look, but can't quite seem to get the position. This is Alpha on Alpha, and yeah, we can't actually see if there's going to be a position made at the moment, although is Will going to pull out of the slipstream? It looks to be a little bit too far back, and he is indeed, or as I said, look at the spit of flames coming out of Dorman's car there. It is cracking stuff. What a great camera. We have some really good camera angles. I do, again, enjoy it. It really gives you a sense of the speed carrying through, because these cars aren't slow. They're old, in terms of like brakes, the suspension's quite agricultural compared to modern cars. The brakes are quite agricultural, but these cars are so fast in a straight line. It's very, very difficult to get these cars stopped from the speed that these guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you actually put that nail on the head there. Even on my track car that I've got, I've got 12 clicks of adjustment on the dampers. These cars have four clicks. So that really tells you, technology-wise, I mean, you're probably talking 32 clicks in a modern touring car. So, yeah, these cars, there's very little adjustment of what you can actually change. And even when you change them, you go, has that made that much difference? Not really. You've just got to actually drive it with the wheel, drive it a lot with your feet, and really, point the car where you want it to go and just floor it.
Indeed, I know. It is that sort of stage, I suppose, like I said, the four-wheel drive, that's how it's just point and squirt the car, and it's just like point the car in the general direction, flat out, and off you go. It's a really, really old-school style of driving, which I absolutely love. Although we have seen Rob Butler is in the pits. I'm not entirely sure if he's got damage that he's trying to nurse and couldn't quite manage it, or the damage was irreparable, he couldn't actually drive the car in its current state, but he has jumped in the pits, so a bit unfortunate for him through there. So not entirely sure what was going on with that, but hopefully we may get some information on that a bit later on. As we're currently, Rob Walters in P6. He's just sitting there or thereabouts in P6. He's having a good race of his own. He's just sitting there, again, waiting for stuff to happen. This is one of the things as well, is having the patience to just sitting there and just allowing everything to come to you, allowing the race to come to you. I know it's, in the 20-minute race, we've actually just crossed halfway, in fact, so 9 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. And as we can see here, just actually jumping on board back with Robbie Stapleford. He's closing. I don't think he's closing the gap. It's staying around the 7/10, 8/10 of a second. Now I don't know. Again, is this Michael Epps? Is Epps just sitting there, just going? He's controlling the pace of this race at the moment. He knows that he's got time in the bag, or is he really trying to drive the car as hard as he can? You just saw it there, a little bit of a squirming. Again, trying to get as much traction down in the forward drive to be utilised as much as possible. I'm intrigued actually, because Stapleford's just pulled another 2/10 out. And at last, I mean, these guys are so fast in race pace. You've got a best lap for Epps, or best lap for both Epps and Stapleford. Epps a 40.991, but Stapleford is a 40.762.
Yeah, 40.7 on what I believe is probably medium tyres is a phenomenal pace. That's... Yeah, I don't quite know how he's managed that, if I'm honest with you. That is a really good pace. But yeah, you can just see how much more nimble the BMW looks. It's very light, but it is very bouncy and very twitchy, where you can see Mike's car looks a bit more planted, a bit more stable. And you saw him there, four-wheel drifting out the last corner, really using all of that power the Alpha has. But I would say the Beamer, once it gets a long enough straight, can probably just start to creep up the back of Alpha on straight line speed. It'd be interesting to really see what the difference on the brakes are, because we know the Alpha is a heavier car, but it also might be slightly stronger in the braking area. So it'd be interesting to see where, if Robbie does get close enough, where he feels he can make that move, because these cars are vastly different speeds on different parts of the track.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, just going into turn 7, or the exit turn 7, just look at the exit here. Look how much. I'm saying that. He didn't actually gain that much just going through there. Although, he sort of gains, I think, the general acceleration of the Alpha is very, very impressive. But yeah, it's just the drive as well. You can imagine, I can just imagine what Robbie Stapleford is thinking. Although, looking at it, he is very good on the brakes. I think the BM has got the edge on the brakes, definitely. But again, look at that traction that Epps has got. I think this is the one, the real saving grace of having the forward drive. Yes, the car's heavier, probably, it definitely uses its tyres up more. But I mean, it's just so good out of traction zones. It can just get the power down and off it goes. So whatever time you lose in the braking zones, you sort of gain going on the straight as well. We've got Rob Walters, who was just putting his personal best there. Yeah, I think we'll watch it again. You'll watch the Alphas at turn, I think, 7, that sort of double right-hander. And again, the traction they've got is just quite staggering. But the gap is still coming down. Robbie is there or thereabouts, and he's not giving up this position. We've got 7 minutes left to go, plus 1 lap. And yeah, Robbie is not giving up. He wants this win very, very badly indeed. And I don't personally think that Epps is controlling the pace anymore. I think he's now having to work to keep ahead here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know whether Robbie's thinking of the league already here, but, you know, Robbie does need the points here to try and close that gap on Jack. And that, going into this race, is exactly what he's doing. You know, he's got that position ahead of Jack. And not only doing that, but, you know, putting his stamp on it, going, look, Jack, we're in the same car and I'm still pulling away here. But regarding the Mike Epps and Robbie battle, you know, they're about the same place, but it's if they get wheel to wheel, I just can't see how Robbie is going to get any sort of traction or get the overlap on them Alphas, because out the corners, they are rocket ships.
They are very, very true. I think the only thing that, and again, this would be from a, you know, how I'd be thinking about it is, as we've just got, this is Brennan, and it's just a bit of a sideways action there from Brennan. This is Brennan and Walters currently in the battle for P5. So this is hotting up quite nicely here. So Mercedes versus BMW. We've got Isaac Smith just a little bit further ahead, but can't really seem to... and again, another great shot on the back of Brennan's car. Again, with the 190 Evo breathing down the back bumper of Brennan's BMW here. It looks to be as well pretty neck and neck, I think, for the Merc and the BM down the straight line speed. But this, again, is the battle for the lead currently. And we've got there, that was... the camera angle made it look as if, though, Robbie was going to have that move then and he was ahead. But again, I think that traction from Epps' car just allowed him to just stay ahead. But as we've got the back gap there we had from Jack, and he's just dropped away, 3.3 seconds. However, it was 3.5 seconds. It's already down to 3.2. So this is what Jack, I think, was wanting. It's just like, if you guys want to battle, I'm going to let you battle, and then we're going to see how it goes. Again, Robbie Sable just trying to get past every which way, but can't at the moment, although Mike Epps does go very, very wide. Oh, this is going to be very, very close. I think that Epps will, obviously, he does have the drive. I think the only thing that Robbie could do is potentially get up the inside of the last chicane or any one of these chicanes and really just almost stop it on the apex to just try and stop that traction being used from the Alpha. That's really the only way that I can see that happening.
I think the only place he's going to be able to get this done is realistically this section here, where you're driving out of the slow section up and over the hill, and you can really use the speed advantage the Beamer has. And you've seen Robbie is extremely good on the brakes down into that corner there. That's probably the only place where I would sort of go, I could maybe do it. But then I say that, through the tight section, it seems like Mike can open that gap because of the traction difference. I don't know, if I was Robbie in this scenario, yeah, he's got the pace advantage, but he's got to be wary that that little battle there made Jack close up by nearly a second there. So if he does that too many more times, Jack will be right on him, and it could possibly give them time to pounce. So, you know, Robbie needs to be smart here. Maybe goes, that extra place is maybe not worth it. Sit back, you know, Mike's quick enough, go with him, and then try again in race 2.
Yeah, that's true, and that's another thing. Like you said, you know, always got to treat this as a, you know, what's the gain versus the loss. And like I said, if he wants to try and close that gap to Jack, then any points that he can gain ahead of Jack are always going to be beneficial. But at the moment, yes, the gap has dropped back down to, you know, to about a second. I'm just looking at the timing screens. We've got Jordan Brennan and Robin Walters. Currently, the gap here, and I believe that is we've got someone else as well. That is, I think, Andy Mellors potentially that's trying to get involved as well. So we've got a battle for P5 that's raging on behind us. Yes, this is the battle here. So we've got Brennan, that's Isaac Smith, Brennan and Walters all battling. This is battling for P4 now, Dave. So I think at the moment
it's battling for P4, but I do actually have on my timing screen that Isaac Smith has a drive-through with track limits, and which also I did for Butler. So I believe that's why Butler dropped all the way back, so we could potentially see Isaac come in here, the pits for a drive-through, which would then almost gift Brennan 4th. But I don't think there's any gifting with Robin Walters here, because Robin is all over the back of Jordan.
He was indeed just then. Had a little bit of a look. He actually pressured Brennan to go a little bit wide going through into turn 8, the sort of bottom hairpin of the circuit. Yeah, I think, to be fair, Brennan's car has seen better days, isn't it, Dave? Look at that. Look at that. And we have indeed, I believe that was Isaac Smith, has just gone into the pit. So he is indeed serving his drive-through. Bit of a shame there, because that battle, I'm sure, would have been raging on for the next couple of laps that we do have. 2 minutes 120 seconds left of the first race for the League of Champions DTM Cup here at Zolder. If you have just joined us, welcome aboard. Please do make sure you get involved in the chat. We always love to have a chat with you guys when the race is going on. So yes, Brennan has been gifted P4, but as you say, Dave, Robin Walters is going to want to be gifted that position as well. So he's inherited P5, and I'm sure that's going to be something that he's going to be wanting to inherit P4 as well. But by the looks of it, he's going to have to work it. He's going to have to work for it because Brennan is not going to give up that position so easily. Yeah,
Robin is all over this, isn't he? I think the big thing that we haven't pointed on yet is, track limits, especially through here where Brennan's going through. These chicanes here, the track limits are really quite harsh there to avoid people, just going straight over them. The drivers have 4 chances of track limits. If they exceed the track limits more than 4 times, then they have to serve a drive-through. So what we could be seeing here is maybe certain drivers backing off because maybe they've used 3 or maybe they've used the 4th, almost chance of cutting the track, and they don't have any left, so they don't want to drive through. So I'm not saying it's maybe why it's happened, but this is maybe why we're seeing Robbie Stapleford drop off a bit. As we see there, Jordan Brennan just go a little bit deep on the brakes, and that should mean job done for Robin. But I believe actually they're going to go wheel to wheel, side by side, down towards the second last corner.
They are indeed side by side, but it doesn't look like, I think Walters gets the move. He does indeed. He gets the move stuck even before they get to the last corner. I wonder why that happened. It almost looked, I don't know if it was me, but it almost looked a little bit like Brennan potentially went a little bit wide. I don't, whether it was on purpose or it was something. Again, maybe he actually could be looking at it going, hang on a minute, I've got, he's on the cusp of maybe getting a drive through. So maybe losing that position and just allowing the car and allowing him to finish his race. I don't know, it just looked a little bit, it looked like he didn't fight it that much actually going through back into the last chicane. Interesting to see there, but at the moment, Robin Walters, he's already pulled 7/10 of a second. But this is the man currently still ahead. He's pulled out 2 seconds back on Stapleford. So Robbie did have a good go, but unfortunately, I think, as you said, Dave, he was playing the long game. He wanted to make sure that he didn't drop any time back to Jack, which I'm sure Jack is very pleased about. But yeah, I think at the moment, Epps, providing nothing happens, touch wood, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to say, I'm not going to say anymore, actually, commentators cursing all that. But he has just got to manage his tyres for another lap, and then he will be the winner for race 1. But I think at the moment, there could very well be, I think Isaac Smith he's come out in P7, and he's actually just got past Mellors again. So that position has now been brought back. So he's only lost, even though he had a drive-through, he's only lost 2 positions. So considering he did have a drive-through, and a drive-through here is quite long, I'd imagine, he hasn't actually lost out that much in terms of positions. So fair play. Like I said, he's managing it well. He needs to just get his head down, focus for next race. Obviously, the reverse grid, it's going to play a factor into it. So potentially we could see Isaac Smith, if he does get a good run at the start, on the start of race 2, he would be able to jump up. But this is going to the last lap, I believe, for Mike Epps. And look how close he was to the wall there. Considering the man who was in the lead comfortably, he's still trying to use all the track limits, isn't he?
Yeah, we see this, the real drives. Oh, I don't believe it. As we see Robbie Stapleford actually got a drive-through penalty for cutting on the very last lap. Hopefully, we'll see what happened with Isaac, where he won't lose too many positions, but this could see Robin Walters with his first podium.
This could very well do indeed. So I'm guessing then that Stapleford is going to have to drive into the pits on that last lap. So the gap is, I'm looking at it, so the gap is about 9.5 seconds. I'm just trying to think where the start finish line is. But even with the drive, this is interesting because it's on this last lap. Obviously Stapleford will lose the position, but as long as he crosses the finish line, I'm guessing he crosses the finish line where he is. So this could be interesting. So yeah, as you said, Dave, this could very well be Walters with his first ever podium, which is all very, very exciting. We're going to have to see how the timing screens stand when everyone crosses the line. And as I say, more importantly, where Stapleford drives into the pit lane, because I know that the start-finish line is a little bit too close. We have got here as well, we've got Porsche Sports with a little wave emoji there. So good afternoon, good evening. I keep saying good afternoon. Good evening, Porsche Sport. How are you doing? And we also got their SimSport Racing as well that have tuned in. So I hope you guys are all well. But one more chicane to go for Mike Epps, and he will be taking the win. I would say it was a dominant drive. Had a little bit of an issue, had a little bit of a moment there with Stapleford, had a bit of a battle, but he kept his head down. And he's a little bit of a four-wheel drift on there, just for a bit of showboating there. Look at that, as if he could showboat any more than that. But Mike Epps takes the race 1 victory here in the VRRC League of Champions DTM Cup at Zolder, and you can see he's very, very impressed, isn't he, Dave?
He is. I mean, he just had to give it a little showboat out the last corner, didn't he? Nice four-wheel drift, get a little bit sideways. But yeah, I believe the way it works is if you get a drive-through penalty on the last lap, obviously you can't serve it because you can't drive the full length of the pit lane, back out, rejoin the circuit, and then do a lap. So I could be wrong, but I believe a time penalty is then applied to the driver for race one. So we might not see the driver standings change for this race, but I believe, depending on the time gap, Robin Walters could potentially see a podium here.
I see indeed. Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Walters will be excited. I'm sure Stapleford will be kicking himself with that, because that was the last thing he wanted again. So, you know, Jack was sitting there again, just did what he needed to do, played the race that he needed to play. And obviously, you know, it has come good for him in the end. To be fair, though, in a way, that it is good that we are soon, you know, we're still seeing drivers that are pushing. Like these, you know, by the looks of it, these drive-throughs or potential drive-through penalties aren't holding anyone up from getting positions. They aren't holding anyone up from putting out as much as they can and driving these cars 110%, which is always really, really cool indeed. We're going to have a few interviews in a second. We're going to have, obviously, a couple of minutes before we jump into the next race here. But yeah, if this is anything to go by again, from what we have seen in all of the League of Champions series before, this is going to be no different in terms of how much excitement. I still can't get over the look of that Alpha. It's just absolutely insane. It really, really is. Yeah, so we're going to see the final standings in a second, but all of them, every driver and all the drivers have crossed the finish line. So we're going to be going to see the final standings provisionally until any penalties are applied. But we've just been actually confirmed in the by the admins. We have got a 30-second time penalty added to that will be added after the race to Stapleford. So yes, Dave, you were absolutely right. So that will drop Stapleford down potentially all the way to, I'm guessing, maybe P7, maybe even P8. So not ideal for him as well, but he's still got some time to put out for race 2. But that does indeed promote, as you said, Dave, Robin Walters to his first ever podium. So hopefully we're going to have a chat with him in the interviews. We do. I've just seen him pop into the interview booth there, so I'm excited to. Well, Dave, obviously, I'm sure you're excited to have a chat with him. But yes, your final race order. So provisionally, it was Michael Epps, Robbie Stapleford, pending the penalty. Jack McIntyre, Robin Walters, Jordan Brennan, Andy Mellors, Isaac Smith, Max Edmondson, Andy Dorman, Mick Sutton, rounding out the top 10 with Andy Carroll P11, Will Fairclough P12, Rob Butler P13 with an unfortunate drive-through, and Paul Laramie in P14. Excited for race 2, but we do have some interviews, Dave.
Yeah, we'll go down and have a chat with the lads and see what they reckon.
Brilliant stuff.
Right then, if we go to our interesting podium, our P3 finisher, Robin Walters, are we here?
I am here, yeah.
He is indeed. Yeah, that's a bit of a different outlook on the race. Robbie getting a drive-through, unfortunately, on the very last lap, meaning he had a 30-second penalty. So you were gifted P3, but I say it was gifted. You know, you had a very strong battle there with Jordan, and we just saw him outbreak himself slightly. Is that the way the race panned out for yourself?
Yeah, I think after a fairly poor start, got involved in something, not quite sure what happened. I think I landed in something like 6th or 7th. And then, yeah, just tried to latch onto the back of Isaac and Jordan and just keep it clean. And I was hoping they would make mistakes. And I think Isaac had a drive-through, Jordan made the mistake, and then a pleasant surprise at the end with Robbie's penalty, unfortunately for Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've seen you in the other championships and you've either had bad luck or struggled a little bit with the car, but you really seem quite at home in this Merc. You know, it seems to suit your driving style, and you're definitely getting the lap times down.
Not at all. It's horrible. Yeah, no, the car, it's okay. I seem to have found a happy medium with the setup, but yeah, it's to be fair, I'll confess I ran traction control during the race. I know not many people are, but for me to be able to keep hold of the car, I've had serious traction control.
Yeah, well, I mean, these cars are old brutes. You know, they don't have the modern technology and the nice feeling steering wheel and the way the kit with bumps. You know, these cars are just raw. Which certain drivers like, certain think, you know, it's a bit of a handful. But yeah, it's really nice to see you on the podium, and good luck going into race 2.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
No bother, Rob. On to P2, Jack Mack, another calculated drive. I I was going to ask, how much are them, cutting tracks an issue for pace and lap time?
It depends really. There's a couple of spots where it's through the chicanes where you can get really close to it, but there seems to be a line through there that's still quick and not really risky as the other guys, the two in front of me, were doing. I was having to take a lot more risks to try and keep up in the first half, but yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah, I mean it seemed to pay off in the end because for all your lap time wasn't quite there on the start of the race. By the end, you're actually starting to crawl back on. So maybe they've got near the end of their track limits warnings, and they had to back the pace off. So hence why I said, it's all about calculating the risks, and you were dropping away from P4, you were opening up that nice gap, but you were still making sure you were going to finish on the podium. So another good solid effort. Any sort of tactics going towards race 2? You're obviously seeing how fast the alphas are off the line. Whether there's much you can really do in defending that. But have you got any tactics going towards race 2 for that side of things?
Not really, just to survive. I think it was a bit crazy in the mirrors going towards turn 1 at the start of that race. So just trying to not be in the middle of whatever happens this time. Those alphas are quick off the start, aren't they? So yeah, I don't think there's any beating those. I've changed my gear ratios a little bit. I was bogging down a bit too much there. So a couple of changes now. I think my tyres weren't really on compared to the other guys ahead of me at the start of that race. So we'll try and get them a bit better this time. But no, that sucks for Robbie. It's never, it's good to be second, but it's never good to get it like that. So hopefully he does well this race. Yeah,
I'm sure it'd be good. But no, fair play to yourself. You drove well and brought home another second place on the grid, which just keeps bringing home points for yourself. So well done and good luck for going towards race 2.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No, but. And on to Mike Epps, yet again, top step of the podium. Brought it home after putting it on pole. A good, solid race, but Robbie definitely didn't make it easy.
No, he didn't, to be fair. Listening to the other boys, yeah, same thing on track limits. I was on my 4th warning from about 3 laps to go, so had to really just turn in a little later for the chicane and just take it a little safer. I don't know about the other cars, but if you turn in just a smidge late, it just doesn't quite make the line and you end up skipping the right hand curb. You don't really gain anything for it, but obviously the game goes no, that's a penalty. Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah, it's good off the line, this car, but definitely felt a bit weak in the middle, and I can tell that we're weak in the brake zones. So
yeah,
other circuits during this season it's going to level out a bit, but it does definitely feel quite strong around here.
Alright, I noticed time's getting among us here, so I'll let you go and put your head down, but really good effort in race 1 and good luck for race 2.
Cheers, mate. Can't wait for the launch.
There we go, Dan. Yeah, another confident Mike there. He had the pace and he knew he did.
I did. Obviously, fair. I'm sure he's, like I said, looking forward to the launch. I'm sure I'm looking forward to seeing what that launch is there. We just got Porsche Sport as well. So seriously, what does Mike Epps not running? Well, this is definitely going to be ones that you can tick off his bucket list. But we're just about to get underway for race 2 of the League of Champions T-LCM Cup, and we are away again. You can see the Alphas just absolutely decimate the BMs and the Mercedes. We've got an Alpha like front 5 lockout. As we can see here. Again, all seem to be a little bit more clean going through this time around. We've got Mike Epps, you can see in the bottom right corner of your screen, but in the top left, still showing at the front. Will Fairclough is currently on pole, and he is just, as I see that, Mick Sutton has had a bit of a half spin and has hit the barrier. That's unfortunate for him. I don't think that would be a safety car, as he was the only one that spun off, and I believe that was his own accord. Although I say that, that wasn't a commentator's curse because that already happened before I said it. Okay, but we have had a couple of other cars, unfortunately, been collected. Not entirely sure if this is going to be another safety car. We're going to see and we're going to hear in a second. But yeah, Will Fairclough has put 2.5 seconds already on Mellors, so he has just disappeared. Unfortunately, it's all going to be put to waste because the safety car has indeed been deployed. So again, what we're going to see is the pack are going to get bunched up again. We could very well have this just to be the one safety car lap. So the cars are all going to bunch together and then we are going to get underway. But, I mean, it was a cleaner start through turn 1 day, which is a shame it didn't happen as much on turn 2 this time.
Yeah, it was a lot cleaner of a start. It's what we like to see. Yeah, I reckon we'll probably see the same as race 1. They're not going to bring out a safety car when basically all the pack is already bunched back up again. This is the second time this season Will Fairclough's had a great launch, a great start, and then safety cars come out. you know, and hindered his getaway. We saw it in Porsche, so hopefully he's learnt his lesson. Hopefully he's got a bit more temp in them tyres and won't push it quite as hard on off the start of the race here. No, as I believe actually the safety car is coming out, so we're going to have a full lap under safety car here. But I think Mike Epps must have been involved somehow in that early collision there, because he seemed to drop down from the initial progress he made. Robin Walters and Jack Mack, Jordan Brennan all seem to have had a relatively clean getaway there. But yeah, I think one thing we're noticing is once the Alpha starts to get a slide on, it's not like the Mercedes or the BMW where you can sort of give it a correction and, you know, use your right foot and power it out. Once the Alpha loses the back end, you know, you would think four-wheel drive it will pull itself through, but it seems like the weight just keeps it transferring around, and you can't really hold it.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, it could just be, again, the way, like I said, the weight transfer, and the way it does rotate, and also as well the four-wheel drive system. Like, you know, if it's a relatively sort of 50-50 in terms of how the power is delivered, then any sort of small corrections could just, you know, just sort of accelerate the process of the car spinning. But yeah, at the moment, again, everyone frantically warming their tyres. It's just, it's quite a sight to see. It's also quite a sight to see. We've got a Mercedes SLS AMG safety car. So we've got a very modern safety car, again, with these, it almost looks like the safety car's a bit out of place, doesn't it? But again, very, very striking safety car livery that we've got there. And we've got Will Fairclough bunching the pack up as much as he can. He's, again, probably just trying to keep some heat into those brakes. You're going to see everyone sort of like potentially either riding the brakes or that sort of stop-start, because they want to get as much heat in these tyres and brakes. Because, again, like we said before, Zolder is a very, very stop-start track. A lot of chicanes in there, a lot of big braking zones. And like I said, in a car, especially something like the Alpha, which is a heavy old brute of a car, then obviously that is one thing you've got to watch out for. Safety car has been released. So in a second, it's going to be up to basically Will Fairclough when he would like to go. Okay, so as we can see here, we're now just on board currently with Isaac Smith. Yeah, again, another great onboard shot. So you can see frantically warming these tyres, still trying to get some heat in them as much as he can. Probably not going to want to be doing that too much longer, because everyone is going to be wanting to go. And I think someone got caught out there. It might have been Edmondson that got caught out warming his tyres before the race went on. Will Fairclough didn't get a very good jump on everyone, so the gap to Mellis is only 0.2 of a second. So I wonder if there's going to be Mellis trying to jump on the bandwagon and get into P1 very, very early. Although it seems to be that Will had a very good exit out of the last chicane. So he didn't necessarily get the jump that Epps did at the start of the race. And I say that, Will's gone wide again. He manages, wow, that was close indeed. He manages to save it, but he's going to lose out again another couple of positions. And oh dear, this is a blimp cam here showing perfectly what happened in terms of a little bit of rubbing his racing, as they say. But Edmondson lost out there big time. But again, Will, just a small little mistake, especially going through turn one. That's not ideal for him, is it, Dave?
Yeah, I bet he's kicking himself again for that one. You know, just a little bit too late on the brakes. Ran it a little bit deep into the gravel, but I don't quite know how he managed to find the gap there. I believe it was between Andy Mellors and the front of Max Edmondson's car. Must have been a wafer between the two cars. So yeah, a bit of luck there, but unlucky that he ran a bit wide.
Yeah, it was indeed. Hopefully he is going to bring that back. I'm sure he would. He's got some pace. He has got some pace. We saw that in the Porsche Cup. So what he needs to do at this point is just head down, crack on, and not make too many other small little errors, which can add up quite considerably. And as I say that, he has spun, I believe that is going through turn... Oh, I'm trying to think what turn that is. It could be turns 5 and 6. So, again, really unfortunate for him there. He's dropped down all the way to P14. He has got the car going again. But, again, similar to what we saw with the Porsche, like his race has just gone from bad to worse. Unfortunate, but like I said, he does have some pace. See what happens. Anything can happen in these sort of races. And if he keeps his head down, who knows? There could be some penalties again, as we saw in race 1. So this could be still will play. He could be making some positions later on in the race. But covering the rundown, so Andy Mellors has inherited P1. He's already got 1 second of a gap to Isaac Smith. Rob Butler in P3, Jack McIntyre P4, Jordan Brennan P5, Robin Walters P6, Robbie Stapleford P7, Edmondson P8. Epps has worked his way up to P9, so he's got a couple of positions, although one of them was a freebie from Will Fairclough spinning. We've got Carroll, Dorman and Lowry, with Sutton bringing up the rear for the grid as well. But I think McIntyre is going to try and get a move on to Robbie Butler. Again, I don't know. He's very, very close indeed. It could be last of the late breakers, which I think the BM has definitely got the brakes. Look how much speed they carry through there. Even though they are old cars, they can still carry a fair amount of speed going through these medium to fast speed corners. Again, great to see. We've just got Butler going on the defensive there. So cutting off Jax. He couldn't quite make the move. We're just going to go on to Robin Walters. That was someone else. I don't know who that was. That was Butler that spun. So he's dropped down. Jack McIntyre has now inherited P3. So, wow, I think Jack is just sitting there going, thank you very much. And now off he goes. But another big shame for big shame there for Butler. He's dropped down into P12. P13 now, I should say, if Sutton has just got by him.
Yeah, I think that was just a case of, Rob caught quite a lot of speed through the chicane, and maybe it was the bounce on the land and that caught him out. And we've seen once the weight of these Alphas starts to rotate, they're really quite hard cars to stop. As we see, Mike Epps there just overrunning the corner there. Did very well there not to collect Max Edmondson. Levelled out the corner, got in front of him and made sure he didn't have side contact. So fair play there for Mike, but you can see how hard it is. You brake a little bit too late in these cars and you just can't get them stopped.
But it was almost like Epps was sitting there going, do you know what, I should provide a demonstration for what Dave was just talking about. Yeah, like literally that couldn't have been better timed. But like as you were saying, you can see how hard these cars are to stop. Again, the passenger seat now. So imagine this being on a track there. This would be absolutely terrifying, wouldn't it? But this is currently on board with Brennan, who's half a second back from Andy Carroll. Brennan has got some good pace in these cars, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing some positions be made up through here. Again, there's sort of, I think this mid-speed sort of section as well. This is where the four-wheel drive system starts to be a bit of a hindrance in these cars because the speed is already up on these cars and they're already carrying that momentum through. It's very, very hard as we see that. Wow, that's a save from Brennan, wasn't it? I'd love to have seen that from the outside camera. That was a very, very big sideways move, but he does manage to get and keep the car in check. Yeah, I think that's sort of medium to high-speed corners. It doesn't really make much difference with the four-wheel drive because you've already got that momentum carrying forward. So it doesn't really make much difference. Although, as I say, we're going to have Brennan going to try and go around the outside of turn 5 into the next chicane. He already gets the move done, as we're just about to see that going through, and he does indeed. So Brennan up to P8. Epps has just got past Edmondson. Okay, so Edmondson has dropped to P7. Epps has inherited P6 there. So again, and just look at the gap he's already pulled. It's already half a second. Again, using the traction advantage that the Alpha has. You're going to see it again going through here. Car gets hooked up, and all of a sudden, foot down, and then off he goes. Pulled another 10.5 out, just on the bottom hairpin alone. As we're currently on board with Rob Walters. That's very, very close to the back there, Stapleford. That's very, very close indeed. I can imagine that's something that Walters doesn't want to see in his mirror for too much longer. I don't know what Stapleford's going to do. I guess he's going to try and get by as soon as possible because he can see Max in his sights. And obviously, he's going to be racing. He is racing at the moment with Smith and Mellors. So I think probably Stapleford is just head down. He needs to make up these positions here, doesn't he, Dave?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Robbie's going to be looking for the earliest chance possible to get past because he doesn't want this front pack to get away. But to be fair, I don't think the front pack will pull too hard. Robin showed good pace in the previous race, but it might be a case of Robin, doesn't defend it too hard. He knows Robbie's quick. He probably saw the lap times, and he knows that if Robbie can go ahead, put more pressure on the gap in front sooner rather than later in the race. It might be a case if it's actually a better decision to let Robbie go through, get the hard work done, and then it allows Robin to basically take advantage of whatever Robbie leaves. But yeah, I mean, you can see Andy Mellors here is doing a great job of holding the pack off. Isaac will be, trying every trick in the book to try and get past. But Andy Mellors has the traction advantage, so even mistakes like that there, you can see it's incredibly hard for the rear-wheel drive cars to get any sort of advantage on the cutbacks.
It is indeed very, very true. But as we say that, whoa, that was a big moment. How did Jack save that? I have no idea. That was 2 wheels on the grass, completely sideways. Unfortunately, it has made him lose out. He almost looked like he was going to gain the position. He's got some good traction on Smith here. They're going to go side by side going into the last chicane, but he's going to squeeze him as much as he can, although he can't squeeze him that much. But I was just about to say that this battle was turned from, and again, they're still side by side. I can't see how that's going to go. 2 does not go into 1 there, chaps. So you've got to take it nice and easy. But they somehow managed to all get through. How Jack saved that, I don't even know. That was absolutely incredible. But we've just got an onboard shot now from Stapleford. And again, we've got Isaac Smith defending for his life. Stapleford's going to try up the inside, trying to make the move up on McIntyre, who has gone just a little bit wide again. And I think that's actually promoted. That has indeed. Stapleford has got past McIntyre, so he needs to now get past Smith. and off he goes. He needs to really get his head down here and keep Jack behind him, although Jack isn't going to give this position up that easily from what we have seen in previous races and also for race 1. These guys are very, very quick. They're very, very determined. So I know we were saying, I don't know how many warnings these guys have got for track limits, but I think from what we saw for race 1, it's not going to deter them from gaining or trying to gain some more positions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now how Jack managed to save that going over the crest. It's because it's Jack Mack. You know, his car control in the sim is fantastic. There's no denying that, but he's not going to be happy with that. You know, whether that was just being too aggressive with Isaac there into turn 1, as we see Robbie getting very sideways and saving it as like Jack did. You know, I mean, there's some incredible car control going on here to wrestle these old beasts as hard as they can. But Robin Walters is looking at this and going, I want a bit of this, and then Mike Epps has managed to get right on the back of him.
I know, this is that. Whoa! Oh no, that was, unfortunately, that was Stapleford that's gone. I mean, to be fair, I don't think Jack could have really done much from there. I think that was just unfortunate. I think Robbie Stapleford just moved over to a position where Jack was. That could have been just a little bit. Again, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, there may be some difference of opinions going through that, but yeah, it just didn't look like Jack really had anywhere to go. I think his position of the car, he wasn't turning in or anything, so he was just there where he was. So unfortunately for Stapleford, he has dropped back to P7. So Jack McIntyre has now inherited P3, but Mike Epps is just behind him. So, you know, I mean, to be fair, 2 laps ago, this race was almost, this battle for P1 was 5-6 cars deep, and 2 laps later, we've now got Mellors with a second gap on Isaac again, and we've got Smith with a second gap on McIntyre. So how quickly this race is changing as we're going through, I honestly, it's struggling. You know, we're struggling to keep up, to be fair, Dave, but the gap is already coming down from Smith to Mellors. So again, we're going to see probably a carbon copy of what we have done the last couple of laps. I think Mellors is just trying to, you know, nurse his car. He may not have the current pace that Smith has, but as long as he can put his car in the right position, utilise that four-wheel drive, although he has got a little bit wide going through the first chicane, and I believe Smith has already got the position done and dusted before the next chicane. So that is Smith up into the lead, with Mellors currently in second, so he needs to try and not lose too many positions. As I say that, he has a big sideways moment. I think he manages to keep it. He does indeed, squeezing Jack McIntyre pretty much as he can, but that's now invited Mike Epps up the inside of Jack. He's gone, thank you very much, I'm going to take that. Dave, how are we keeping up with this? I don't know.
I'm just loving the cars, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, we can see, you know, Jack Mack here, unfortunately, that beam is looking rather minute when it goes wheel to wheel with these Alphas. You know, it's almost just getting bounced out the way, but there you can see the real advantage the BMW had there on straight line grunt over the Alphas. You know, fair play to Andy. He saw that was the move done and dusted there. You know, backed out, tucked nicely in and hasn't lost another position to Mike.
No, it's very, very true. Although, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I think Mellors may have actually had a bit of a lift going through and going down the start-finish line. Not entirely sure what that was. It could potentially have been letting Mike Epps through, and I think, yeah, there was not really much contesting there in terms of that position, but unfortunately that's going to allow him, that nearly lost him another position to, I believe that was Walters there, who's making his way back up, currently in P5. But yeah, so Isaac Smith has been released. The gap is 1.6 seconds. But again, Jack McIntyre, I don't think he's going to want to be doing much else from here. He is just, again, head down. He needs to just plug away at his own race. Mike Epps is 1.3 seconds behind. I'm interested to see the pace. We know that Mike Epps is incredibly quick in this car. But again, we've got Walters going to potentially make a move up the inside of Mellors going into the first chicane. He does make the move stick. Can he keep it controlled? No, he can't. He can't keep it controlled. And he goes wide. I think, again, as much as this braking zone, actually, you know, cars, it's very easy to be last at the late breakers going into the chicane, but you've got to make sure you get it stopped and get it through onto the exit, which he didn't quite manage to do. So he's dropped back now into P7. So unfortunately, a bit of an error there has cost him a few positions. Brennan, again, is just sitting there trundling along at his own pace for them. He's doing his own race, currently in P8, but the gap to Robin Walters is only about 0.3 of a second. So again, like, this race can change, as we have seen. We've only got 4 minutes left. This race has just flown by. We've only potentially got another maybe 3 or 4 laps, but this race could all very well change.
Yeah, I think Robin Walters, you know, he knows the pace he's got here. I believe that was Max Edmondson.
Whoa!
I mean, I don't quite know what happened there. That appeared to me like 2 cars got very much hooked onto another and drove each other into the wall. But Robin Walters is laughing with that because that's promoted him in the 5th place.
has indeed. Yes, I have no idea what happened there. But at the moment, the two finishes, the two DNFs, we've got Butler and Fairclough. I believe that was Edmondson has got a drive through because he's dropped all the way down into P10. But the gap here, we now just jump back on board with Mike Epps, a great bonnet cam. We can see here that the gap has come down to about, the gap has come down half a second in the space of a couple of laps. But the gap is also coming down between McIntyre and Smith. So at the rate these guys are catching up with each other, this could very well be a three-way battle for the race win in race 2 within the last lap or so. Wow. Oh. I mean, these guys are just absolutely on. That's not the car, bear in mind. For people that are watching, that isn't the car that's doing that. That is just the drivers being absolutely on the limit. I mean, it has paid off because Epps looked to be cutting it very fine there. I can't imagine how that wouldn't have been a warning for track limits, but maybe you could be calculating the risk and going, hang on a minute, if I can catch up, it's worth having one of those warnings to be had if you can gain a little bit of time. So again, you can tell as a racing drivers using as much of the track as they can and a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you said there before about Mike calculating the risk, I think that's probably exactly what this case is. He might have a few cut tracks there that he knows he's got in the bag, and he's already closing massively here on Jack, and he'd be hoping that Jack closes into Isaac at the same rate he closes in on Jack, and then it'll hopefully give them an option then where Jack tries to attack Isaac and he can get 2 for the price of 1 and get another win.
Indeed. Well, we're not going to have very long to find out. 2 minutes left is the time. This is going to be 2 laps left on the lead, potentially 3, but the +1 lap. We're going to have to see how it goes. But this battle for P1 is slowly becoming a 3-way battle. It's a 2-way battle at the moment, although with another another lap or so, another half a lap or so, I think it's going to be definitely a 3-way battle because the gap is coming down from Epps. I think Jack is in the worst position here because Jack has got to. Again, we talk about calculated risk. This is definitely one that Jack has got to work out. What does he need to do? Is it worth him not fighting Mike Epps that much and allowing the car and allowing Mike Epps to gain a position, potentially to make a move on Isaac, slowing him down, and then he can pounce on the opportunity? Or again, is it worth him defending, maximizing positions? You've got Mellors that is 5 seconds behind. So at the moment, realistically, there's nothing that's going to happen, and there's no other positions that are going to be made. Again, you see Epps utilising as much of the grip that the car has. So you've got Andy Mellors and Robin Walters currently battling for P4. So these guys are going to battle slow each other up. I think Jack could very well be, if he can get past Isaac, then I think he's going to obviously do so and see if he can pull away. But if Mike Epps is on the back of him hassling him, I think he may just very well let him by and gain those positions, because obviously he has got a few more positions now on Stapleford. So that gap between McIntyre and Stapleford is going to ever increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to say this because I know how strongly Isaac can defend. He'll be thinking, this is a win for me, I'm not letting go of this. Mike Epps is thinking, this is a chance for a win. Jack doesn't need the points here, and there's a big gap between Mike Epps and Andy Mellors in P4. If I was Jack and Mike was putting on that much pressure, I might give it up and go, you know what, P3 here is a lot better than me ending up in a wall because I've tried to move on Isaac and Isaac's not going to have it. But Robin Walters here in P5, he's really impressing us in these cars. For all he said he didn't necessarily like to drive them, he's doing a stellar drive here, really putting the pressure on Andy Mellors, and I think he can sniff a 4th place here.
He could very well indeed, although Stapleford is only 3/10 behind Walters, so this again is a battle. This is a 3-way battle potentially for P. Again, Mike Epps, that's got to be another off track. I'm sure that's got to be another warning for him there. I'm absolutely sure.
I'm telling you.
No, there we go. So that's another. I think Mike Epps is getting a little bit aggressive now on these curves, but McIntyre, just look on the time speed McIntyre is getting. But the battle here, Walters and Stapleford is raging on for P5. So we've got 2 battles now. Wow, this is all the action that we can take at the moment. And that was, I think, Stapleford has got past. He has indeed. So Stapleford has got past Walters. That was good for him. He needed to do that. Okay, whether he's going to catch up with Mellors, that's a different story. But any position gained for Stapleford is a position closer to Jack McIntyre. So that gap has come down ever so slightly. Okay, but Walters still having a look back. So this battle isn't over yet. We've got 1 more lap after this. The guys crossed the line with about 20 seconds left to go. So I believe this is the last lap, and we've got. Oh, this is going to be. They're going to go 3 wide going into turn 1. They're going to go 3 wide going into. I can't believe they're going to do this. Look at that. Look at the blimp view. 3 wide into turn 1. Who is going to be the bravest out of these lot? Mike Epps isn't. None of them are backing out. I can't believe they're going to do this. Oh, that's very close indeed. No, he saved it. Oh my God, he saved it. How? I mean, 3 does not go into 1, gents. Mike Epps has become the best out of all of that. He's now currently in the lead from Smith. But as he big sideways moment there, but Jack McIntyre, from all of that, has got dropped back down to P3 again.
Well, you know what? If there was ever a test for the bop that I put on these cars, that was it there, wasn't it? Yeah, 3 cars going into 1. I had a feeling, like, go back 2 laps when I was saying, I can see Jack, he needs to realise that maybe settling for 3rd here as a points place is maybe a better decision. Thinking of the overall league, Mike didn't do round 1, so he's already quite a bit further back in the overall league standings, and Isaac's also quite a bit down. So Jack's not really got anything to worry about here. The only big thing is, I believe, obviously Mike is going to come away with the championship lead at the moment, but Robin Walters is actually, bringing up another close battle here with Jack Mack.
Yes, I know. This is it's interesting, isn't it? Like I said, I think. How we're looking at McIntyre, Jack is playing, he is definitely playing the long game. Like, he's not necessarily, I'm sure he obviously wants to do as well as he can during these championships and doing the individual ones, but it is very much the overall championship for him, definitely, that is the key thing here. But this is it. So we have Mike Epps going through the chicane for one last time for race 2. It is a back-to-back win, providing, again, a little bit of four-wheel drift in there, but he does take race 2. Another, again, very, very good drive. So race 2 out of 2 for Mike Epps for round 1 of this VRRC. And that was Stapleford again. Stapleford has spun. So he's dropped down to P6. I think that was Stapleford that spun. It was indeed. So he's dropped down to P6. So he's dropped back down to P6. That's, again, unfortunate. So, again, Stapleford just, again, another position drop. That's another position further away from Jack. So obviously, Jack's sitting there going, thank you very much. Stapleford is obviously thinking the complete opposite. And we've got Andy Carroll currently in P9. I mean, look at Andy Mellors, P4. A very, very good drive from him. That's a very, very respectable drive. So, no, fair play. He managed what he needed to do. He managed the race well. And he carried on. So we've got Mick Sutton currently in P10. Getting around the top 10, just coming through the last chicane in a moment with Laramie in P11. And Edmondson, who has already finished in P12, and as I said, Mick Sutton taking a little bit of an excursion on the last, and as I said, that decides that he wants to do some grass cutting in the process of going through the last chicane. But he does cross the line in P10. So Laramie 10 seconds behind in P11. Edmondson's already finished, but yeah, the 2 DNFs, Butler and Fairclough. A big shame for Fairclough, isn't it, Dave? I mean, again, we saw it in the Porsche. Unfortunately, we've seen it again through here. That was not ideal.
It is. It's a real shame. But, it's going to be hard for Will to pick his chin up here. But, he's got to realise that, his pace was there. He was driving well. It was driving within himself. It was just a case of, learning little tricks with the tyres, keeping temp in the tyres. And also, not to try and race for absolutely every single position. If there's a driver there that maybe has a little bit more speed, it's very easy to just try and defend every position you can. The inner racer wants you to finish as well as you can, but sometimes it just doesn't lend itself to be a good result.
No, very true. But like you said, Max has just got to, sit there and Will has just got to sit there and go, do you know what? No, there is positions to be gained. There are movements to be had. At the end of the day, it is something that you have got to put your head up, remove, forget about this race, learn from it in the sense, forget about the bad points, but learn from them and take them into round 2.
And it's the hardest track of the season. So
it's very true as well.
Yeah.
Very true as well. And I think as well, everyone is looking, everyone's looking as well. They're looking at they're all learning the cars as well. Like I said, as much as the testing is going, again, you don't necessarily know in a racing scenario. You don't know what works, what doesn't work. There's a little bit of experimentation there, which sometimes does pay off and sometimes doesn't. Again, it's all about that calculated risk. But I think, again, Michael Epps there coming through with the most calculated risk of all. And we've got here, the Bot Cole saying, Epps in an Alpha, told you, stonking racing from all. I mean, to be fair, couldn't have put it better ourselves there, Bod. Really couldn't have put it better ourselves. That was some incredible. I 3 wide into turn 1 at Zolder. I've never seen that ever.
Yeah, I was just happy to see the cars were all about level. If I'm honest.
I mean, to be fair as well, you look at it. You had Alpha, Mercedes, BMW. So again, like the BOP that you've done, Dave, is very, very good indeed.
Well, I'll take credit for that. I've seen it on screen now, so I'm relatively happy. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what the drivers can do going into round 2. Obviously, there will be weight added and ballast added going into round 2, which could really mix things up yet again with the cars. So we'll all wait and see. But I believe we've got a few drivers down the interview room, so we'll jump down and give them a chat.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right then, if we go to our 3rd place finisher, a very, very sideways Jack Mack.
Yeah, that was a bit crazy in the first race, wasn't it? At least from my seat, it was. Yeah, that was mixed. I think, if I'm brutally honest, I think that was probably my race to lose in terms of where I started and what could have been. But just a few bad decisions and putting the car in the wrong place at the wrong time kind of paid due to that. But yeah, I can't be too disappointed with 2nd and 3rd really first week. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean for sure. If you watch the stream back, you had a moment going over the crest of that brow with the car fully sideways, and we went, "It's gone." And you came out on the other side of the screen, car sort of still wiggling a bit, but you kept it. And Dan was going, "How the world did he keep that?" And I went, "That is simply Jack Mack. He can just hold on to stuff that you shouldn't really be able to hang on to." But yeah, I mean, you literally grabbed the car there, and you drove the hell out of it.
Yeah, I think that was probably all that practice we had the other night in the Escort, in the Moto Escort sliding around. That probably helped a little bit with that moment. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I kind of thought the same at that point. I thought that was a goner, but yeah, kept in it and it came back round. So yeah, it's good fun. It's a brilliant little car to drive.
Yeah, I mean, going into round 2, what have you learned from the opening round? Which cars have certain strengths where, and what are you to look for?
It's tricky to tell even from one round because people's setups and driving styles will mature throughout the whole thing. So it's tricky, but it seems like the Beamers have got a little bit of an edge through the fast sections. Definitely I could notice Mike going away a little bit in my mirror through the first sector, but then as soon as it got to the really slow like second chicane, he would just pull all the time straight back in. So it's really interesting actually. I think the balance is pretty much spot on. Some of the cars are quicker in some areas and some in others. So yeah, it should be a good season.
Oh well, I'll take the credit for that. Thanks. Right. Anyway, yeah, good luck going into round 2 there, Jack, and we'll look forward to, I believe, yeah, 2nd in the championship. So a good solid effort in round 1, and we'll look forward to seeing you in round 2.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
No problem. We'll go on to a very determined Isaac Smith. A good solid 2nd place result there. We'll like to see you doing a bit better in race 1, but you definitely made it count in race 2.
Yeah, obviously I wanted the 1st place, but last lap 3 cars wide, it's not always the easiest to come out of it at the front. So we ended up 2nd, which is okay for championship points, and yeah, it's the slowest car around here really. Just it doesn't suit this car, so onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I mean, if any sort of test of the BOP was that straight 3 abreast going down to turn 1, and it was more or less, the Beamer maybe had a slight advantage down the straight, I think it's fair to say, but the Beamer also seems to struggle to get on the power a little bit more coming out the corner. So yeah, that was 3 into 1, don't necessarily go, but somehow 2 of you managed to come out of it. So that worked all right for you, but you didn't really have any response to Mike there, did you?
No, sadly not. Obviously, he's got the traction off the corners with the 4-wheel drive, and it paid off for him there. I was on the bump stops trying to hold it, so.
No, it's great to see, and if I'm honest, it's great to see drivers like yourself, with the standard of driving you've got, really throwing these cars around. And the majority of the stream have watched all the cars basically 4-wheel drifting around the corners, which it's a real spectacle to watch on stream. So for all it sacrifices you driving it a little bit, it helps to watch.
Yeah, I imagine it's a good watch. It's a good car to drive. It's difficult around this track. Obviously, the other cars are slightly quicker. So
yeah, one last quick question regarding, I haven't told you how much ballast is going to be added to the car yet, but going into round 2, do you think ballast is really going to mix up the balance of these cars? And do you think you're going to really see the Alpha and maybe the BMW hindered with having having more weight?
That's what we're planning on.
Well, good solid result there, Isaac, and looking forward to seeing you in round 2.
Cheers, Dave.
No, that. And on our race winner yet again, Mike Epps.
Yo.
I should just write it down. Mike Epps win, shouldn't I? Yeah, I mean that one wasn't as easy, was it? I mean, we didn't quite see what happened, but I believe you got involved in some sort of tangle near the start of that race.
Yeah, so I got a good launch. I was sort of stuck in the middle because it's great off the line, but about halfway to the first corner, the BMs, and I think I'd say the Mercs as well, but the BMs especially, they just start to pull you back. So any open you have is sort of reduced, and I was sat there going, oh god, okay, right, middle lines. We get to the right-hander, and I don't know what happened, but a few cars off, and they all sort of stayed in the middle, but then they gravitated towards the inside, and I'd already picked the right-hand gap to go through, which wasn't there by the time I made it. So massive. That would have been race ending really in a real life situation. I think there was a full hit to the engine bay and all that, but luckily the car was okay. Probably had a bit of damage, but we still had fairly normal pace, to be honest, afterwards. So yeah, good race. A quick comment I want to say: apologise to Jack for the most offensive door-to-door contact I think I've ever made with anyone. The lap before the skirmish that resulted in me getting into the lead. I don't know what it is, but you miss your brake point by half a meter, or you press the brake with, I don't know, 2-3% too much force, and you are going forward.
Yeah,
no stopping it. It's like a homing missile to the cars in front. And I just parked it sideways and doored Jack, but luckily we sort of stayed in the same position. So.
Yeah, well, I'm going to actually give a little tactic now. Actually, what I've found with the cars is, unless if you really give it quite a strong aggressive blip on the downshifts, it's almost like you can have a real strong engine overrun in the braking areas. But I know exactly what you mean. You're basically a sitting passenger there, just going, I know I'm going to hit him. Let's hope this is not too bad. And yeah, to be fair, it didn't look too bad on stream. And you didn't gain really that much of advantage over it. So I'm sure Jack will take that on board. And yeah, but another really good solid finish. And going into round 2, do you think the weight's going to hinder this car, or do you think, if it's going to be another technical track, is it going to still have its advantage in the twisty areas?
Yeah, I think, like you say, there's a few quirks that I'm still figuring out to make this car quick consistently. The 1 lap pace is fine when you get it hooked up, but yeah, over a race distance, especially as the tyres wear, it's quite tricky. It's obviously got better traction as tyres wear, but of course it wears the front out as well, so your entries are worse than the rear-wheel drive cars. So you struggle at different points, especially in the first half of the lap. Which brings me on to the next tracks. I mean, I think this is we spoke the other day. This is probably the strongest circuit for it. So that combined with ballast, I think it's going to be a case of big compromise with setup and trying to figure out how to draw back any sort of loss of pace in a straight line that we might inherit from the extra weight. But we'll see. It's a great start. Obviously, the point system is quite favourable to a pole win-win. That's a really good start for me. So all I've got to do is just stay there now, finish, not run into too many issues, and don't abuse too many track limits, and I'm sure we'll be okay.
Well, as I said before, great effort there, Mike, and pole win-win. Couldn't really be a better scenario, really. So good luck going into round 2, and we'll be looking on the timing sheets.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, it's one of the best sentences you'll ever say in a race career, pole win-win. So hopefully I'll be saying a few more of them this month, whether it's in this or the other 2 series I'm competing in. So cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Mike. Thanks. There we go. Pole win-win, Dan. Pole win-win.
I know. I mean, to be fair, I'm sure he is going to be taking that confidence going through to round 2. But he said he's doing 2 other championships. So fair enough. How you can adapt to different cars and that like that and still be competitive, I don't know. I couldn't do it. But fair play to the people that can. I tell you what, I'm obviously we're just looking at the time, but we're gonna have to wrap up in a second. But I mean, if again this is the way it's going to be running for the next 3 weeks, again, as we said, I just can't wait. I want them to do it now.
You're right there. And, to be fair, we're all looking forward to round 2, but also, VRRC is running the Mini E-Series this weekend as well. So that starts on Saturday morning. And, Mike Epps is competing in that as well, along with me. I've put my life on the line and going for the second E-Series win in Minis. But, so that starts on Saturday. And then 2 weeks' time, we've got the sign-ups. Oh, look at that, Mike Yao on point there with the presentation there. We've got the Touring Car E-Series supported by MSL PowerMaxed Racing, also Fast R, and sign-ups are still live for that. There's still space, but not many at all there. Get involved with that. Some excellent prizes and some absolute top drivers from around the world competing in BTCC, GT racing, World Touring Cars, just about anything that names it. So if you want to get involved, jump on VRRC Facebook page and drop us a message.
Yeah, we have just been told as well that it is currently half price as well. I believe that's entry is half price. So,
yeah, but I believe that was because Fast R came on board. So big credit to them. It's made it a lot more affordable for sim racers to enter. It's huge credit to them.
Brilliant. No, fantastic stuff. I mean, yeah, I can't wait I really can't wait for the next round. I also can't wait as well watching the, going to be able to watch the touring cars as well, the e-touring cars. That's going to be incredible as well. But we are going to have to wrap it up. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, thank you for everyone that we've been chatting to in the YouTube chat as well. But like I said, we are going to call it a day here from all of us here. So from Mr. Dave Marshall, from Mike Yao in the commentary and in the broadcast booth as well, and from me, Daniel Handover. We look forward to seeing you next week. Do take care and stay safe.
The inside of coats.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.